This week we commemorate 30 years since the evacuation of French troops by the Czechoslovak battalion led by Petrem Pavlem. 55 soldiers were trapped under fire from Serbs and Croatians. Petrem Pavlem and 28 Czech and Slovak soldiers had to face not only mortar fire, but also threats from both conflicting sides. And in the end, they were able to save 53 lives. How did it all happen? Why did 2 soldiers die? And what were other details of this rescue operation? That and more will be the questions for our very special guest today. I am Pavlína Horáková. Welcome to Epicentrum. Today I feel great honor because we are connected with the commander of French soldiers that were 30 years ago evacuated from the Karin base, Eric Zanolini. Hello, and thank you so much for making time for us.
So, good evening. It's not so easy. I am Lieutenant Colonel retired Eric Zanolini, former captain in former Yugoslavia, commanding one unit of 150 soldiers, French soldiers, under UN command.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Zanolini, I'm sorry, I jumped in. I was going to ask you if you can please take us back in time and if you could explain what was your mission in former Yugoslavia and how did you and your unit actually got trapped?
Okay. My company was sent in former Yugoslavia in this time within a French battalion made up 5 companies. We were in Krajina, which means in Yugoslavia borders. Mm-hmm. It's a geographical Croatian area populated by Serbian people. At the beginning of the war, Serbian soldiers succeeded to cut Croatia in 2 parts in the area of Zadar. They conquered Zemunik airport, so it was my area of operation. Mm-hmm. I rapidly understood that it will be impossible for the belligerents that it will to have positive negotiation. So I talked to my chief that we shall have a Croatian offensive against Serbia. Mm-hmm. But my platoon were located on the Serbian side, so it was very clear that I could not leave my position during this offensive. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do. And so at that time, there wasn't equipment as we know it nowadays. So your commanders didn't have any idea about what condition you actually were in. They also couldn't get to you physically because of the blown up bridge. So they asked the Czech former commander of the Czechoslovak peacekeeping battalion, Karel Blahna, for help. Did you have any idea that this is happening at that time?
Yes. I asked to the French headquarters what should be my attitude in the event of an offensive. I was answered only self-defense. But it's very difficult to make self-defense when you have only assault rifle, mm-hmm. machine guns, and rocket launchers against artillery, against tanks.
Mm-hmm. But
it's not sufficient.
Did you have any information from your commanders that help is on their way?
I know that my commander was looking for all solutions to save my people, mm-hmm. because it was very important. But it's not very easy because one of my platoon can exfiltrate to Croatian part. 2 other platoons with 2 dead people, 2 dead soldiers, and 3 injured soldiers can exfiltrate with Czechoslovakian help mm-hmm. To Serbian side. And I was trapped with 1 platoon on the line of front, on the front line.
Hmm. Do you remember what was going on in your head? What were your thoughts when you realized that you are trapped?
So it's very difficult for a chief to suffer casualties in his unit. I was afraid to suffer new and more important casualties.
When
it was my problem.
Yeah, when we talk about the casualties, we know that some of the, and you mentioned it, that some of the soldiers were injured. And we know that 2 soldiers unfortunately died. According to interviews with Petrem Pavlem, he said that they arrived 10 minutes after a mortar shell tore apart 2 of your soldiers. What happened exactly?
Had 2 platoons in Karin Plaza. Karin Plaza is the rear the front line, and during the Croatian offensive, some fight in the area, and my soldier received 1 mortar shell on the position. This mortar shell killed 2 non-commissioned officers and injured 3 others. So when I was not in this area, I was trapped in another area. So I was in radio link with my platoons, and when Petrem Pavlem troops come to this area, they had to exfiltrate the 2 platoons and to carry the bodies of my fellows to the Serbian side in the UN headquarters in Belkovac.
How long were you trapped under fire before Petrem Pavlem and his team came to rescue?
I was trapped from my position during the 22nd of January and the 28th of January. The casualties in Karin Plaza were on the 25th of January. First intervention of Petrem Pavlem was on the 25th of January. But this, his intervention for my troop trapped in the other area was on the 27th of January and 28th.
So can you please describe how did your everyday look like during this time? Did you have enough food, enough supplies? How did you keep your spirit up?
Yes, I had no problem with food or supplies. I had a radio link with all my soldiers and my chief, so it was good. And Serbian soldiers brought us some foods, despite of the shell, the bombing. Okay. But it was very difficult for my 2 units to leave the area during the fight.
Do you remember how did you feel at the moment when you realized that you were not alone and that help was there?
I was very afraid to have more casualties, because more you rest in this area, more you have chance to have casualties. I hoped to my chief find a very rapid, very fast solution.
But when the help actually arrived, how surprising was it for you that it was Czech and Slovak soldiers who came to your rescue?
No surprise, because it was UN forces, and I think we had Netherlands, we had Kenyans, and I think that Czechoslovakian troops are more used to have the common use with Yugoslavian people, not common language, but it's very easier to understand between. It was, I think, a very good choice.
And do you remember what was your first impression of Petrem Pavlem when you met him there?
Okay, it was very fast, because when he come with his troop on my position, I have gave the orders to my soldiers to leave very quickly the area, because at the precise time when my troops are leaving the house, I am sure that the house will be bombing. So I have seen a very professional troop, very calm officer, precise, and he exfiltrated my troops. And for my part, I come to my other platoon trapped at perhaps 5 kilometers of this area. And I don't see more Petrem Pavlem until the 28th of January, one day later.
What was Petrem Pavlem's role, exactly role in this rescue operation, and what was maybe the hardest part, you think? I mean, I read that Petrem Pavlem had to negotiate with the Serbian commander to allow our soldiers to actually evacuate the French soldiers. Was that the hard part, or was there something else?
The problem for Petrem Pavlem was he had very few information of the situation, of the location, of the people, Serbian people in the area. So it was very difficult for him, and all the Serbian people was very hungry, and he had principally to negotiate for a safe passage of his troop and for our troop back.
How did you estimate your chances to make it out of there actually alive?
For me, I don't think to this. It's not very important because you are giving orders, taking decisions, so you are not afraid for yourself. I was afraid for my troop and for Allied troops.
But how?
If Petrem Pavlem was not calm, professional, have not succeeded, I think we would have a lot of casualties, perhaps in our side, in the Czechoslovakian side, or Serbian side. And we had no casualties.
So, Mr. Zanolini, how long did it take for you to see your family? And do you remember the first words you said to your wife after you saw her?
Okay, 30 years after, I don't remember the first word. But I know that I met my family only 2 months after. We had some 3 days to see our family in France and to come back in former Yugoslavia. So the most important for me was to see my wife, but to visit the families of my injured or dead soldiers and to visit the families of the other soldiers, to reassure all the families.
How was your life actually after this event? How traumatizing was this experience for you and your colleagues and also for your family?
After this event, my life and my vision of the military missions changed for me. What's more important than the life of your soldiers? It's a very important question for a chief. By chance, thanks to my chief, my company was not repatriated, but recommitted to the Bosnian front line. So it was more easy for my soldiers. For me, I am still unable to go to spend holidays in Croatia or Serbia. It's not possible for me, in my mind.
And how did your family deal with all this? We know that your wife actually talked in the documentary about the fact that your son was secretly listening to radio and was listening to all the scary stuff that is maybe happening to you, and he was very scared for your life. So how did your family deal with all this?
The most important is the events. I have to command my company, so the only thing to do with my wife, and by chance in this time, no mobile but a satellite phone, I can reassure my wife. But my son, 11 years old in this time, was listening to radio in the middle of the night, because he was not very quiet with this.
How was dealing with that afterwards? Did you talk about it when you returned with your son?
No, I don't think so.
And what was the role of your wife, Regine, in this whole aftermath? I mean, I heard she was very helpful with other families, with the families of the wounded soldiers and also the dead soldiers.
Yes, it's very important. Regine, my wife, helped me to visit my injured soldiers in an invalid institution, and the families of my dead soldiers. And until today, 30 years later, I have still contact.
You visited Petr Pavel a few weeks ago. How was seeing him after almost 30 years? And were you in touch at all during this time with him?
I had news of Petrem Pavlem during the war in Afghanistan in 2006. I was in Special Forces under US command, and I met a lot of Czech soldiers. I asked for Petrem Pavlem. He told me, it's General Pavel. It's the chief of the Special Forces. It's our chief. So they give me contact, and since this date we have a contact, and I am able to follow his brilliant career.
When you visited him here, what was your favorite moment with him, and was there anything that surprised you?
The most surprising thing is that despite of the years, Peter is the same I have known. It seems to me it was yesterday. It's the same on 30 years before. I was very happy to meet him. And so I tried to surprise him, because after the very hard day of the 27th of January, the intervention of Petrem Pavlem for me, I have tried to exfiltrate my other soldiers. I don't succeed. I joined Petrem Pavlem in the UN headquarters on Serbian side. I succeed to have a radio link with my platoon still trapped. And after, we go with Peter to visit some military bar in the headquarters. I was very tired after 7 days and 6 nights without sleeping. So I think we drank a lot, and at the end, I thought it was finished, and Peter told me, 1 tower? What is 1 tower? And tower is a 6 beer can, like a tower, and we have to drink the 6 beer can. So when he visit me, we have a good dinner, very sympathetic, with his team, and I told to his team to go sleep. And I asked to Peter, 1 tower? It was surprising for him.
Yeah. Petr Pavel and his colleagues were awarded by the then French Minister of Defense. They were awarded the French War Cross. Petr Pavel also received the highest state decoration, the Legion of Honor. How big of a deal is that they were actually awarded to a foreign soldiers and not French?
I asked after the event for him the French Cross of the Military Valor. I think that this decoration was only awarded to a few Allied soldiers.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty a big deal. So he is running for president, as you know. How do you personally feel about it? You've seen him under pressure, but you also saw him relaxed. According to your opinion, could he be a good president, and why?
I don't know the will of the Czech people, but I think that Petrem Pavlem have a lot of assets to become a good president. Mm-hmm. International experience at the highest level with his when he was a chairman of the military committee of NATO. He is honest, stubborn and courageous, and above all, he's interested in people. I think it's very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, his opponent, Andrej Babiš, very often argues that Petr Pavel could possibly take us, our nation, to war because of his military past. How do you perceive this?
It's stupid. Peter knows the war. When you know the war, you don't want to find yourself confronted with it again. Mm-hmm. The European will is to help Ukraine, not to wage war to Russia.
So, Mr. Zanolini, how is your life now? You said that you are still in touch with your fellow soldiers from your unit. But do you still think about those events? I know that you wrote a book, you wrote a diary. Did that help you to overcome this traumatic experience? Do you dream about it? Do you think about it?
This book was one old idea. I wanted to give to all my soldiers something to remember all the stay in former Yugoslavia. So I was very proud to succeed to do this during this operation without computer, without internet, without numeric camera, and to give them in former Yugoslavia one book for one soldier with his name on. Mm-hmm. It was not to help me for anything, just to remember.
And so back to the first part of my question, how do you feel about all this nowadays? Do you still think about it? Is it still hard?
You cannot forget. It's not possible. Mm-hmm. I am in touch with my former soldiers, some of them. I have received the visit of one of my very badly injured soldiers 2-3 years ago. He visited me in my house in Corsica. Mm-hmm. I have some call every day. And on the 28th of July, I was invited in the non-commissioned officers' school in Saint-Mexan because one promotion of sergeant chose as a godfather one of my non-commissioned officers killed during the fight, Adjudant Rodange. So I met a lot of my soldiers at this date.
Mm-hmm. We all know that the aftercare for veterans plays a key role for recovery. And we also know that here in the Czech Republic, surely we have things to work on in terms of that. But how does that work in France?
I have been involved in several associations of veterans. It's important to maintain ties with his brothers in arms of yesterday and of today. Mm-hmm. And overall, not to forget.
Mm-hmm. So how will you commemorate the 30th anniversary of this rescue operation? And did you actually know that this date is falling exactly on the day of our presidential election?
Yes, it's very funny. 30 years, day for day, after this. So, I hope Petrem Pavlem succeed in this new challenge, as he succeed in this time, in this very difficult operation.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Zanolini, for answering our questions, for taking time, and I certainly hope that we will get to talk sometime soon. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks a lot.
A to už je z dnešního Epicentra vše. Já jen připomenu, že záznam tohoto dílu společně s těmi ostatními nalezete jako vždy na blesk.cz. Já se s vámi pro dnešek loučím a těšíme se opět zítra. Na viděnou.